Back to school week here at Your Morning, which means we're helping you get organized, inspired, and ready to take on those busy weekdays. So, here to answer the most frequently asked questions from parents, I'm joined by registered dietitian Nishta Saxena. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. We've got a lot of these questions that almost every parent has asked.
Yes.
Some are sending their kids away for the very first time. Some need to get back into the swing of things.
Yep.
So the first question is, what's the appropriate amount of food that I should be sending with my child to school?
Yeah, this is probably the most common question I get. I would say for smaller children, if you think of about a quarter cup, if you're putting little pieces of food, cherry tomatoes, grapes, cheese, things like that, about a quarter cup is enough of a portion for a smaller child. Okay. I think for older children, you have to kind of sense what they're eating towards the end of the summer. Yeah. Take a look at how they're finishing the meals that you're serving them, and that can guide you in terms of what they need. About 30% of what an adult would eat is what most school-age children could eat, but every child's different.
All right. Well, this is a question that I would have had for you as well, especially last year. My kids would come home from school with almost nothing eaten in their lunch boxes.
Yes.
And I guess a lot of parents are worried, is my kid even going to be okay if they go a few weeks without finishing their food or coming home having eaten what looks like nothing?
I know, and it's very, very common, and it's a really stressful feeling when you open that box and it's all still there. You know they didn't eat. What we know is typically developing children are going to do fine. If they don't eat a lunch for several weeks, it's really the long game when we feed kids, so I wouldn't be overly worried about it. Just stay the course, keep providing that lunch option, and eventually they will get into the habit of eating. You know, their nervous systems are very overwhelmed in that school environment in the first few weeks.
But let's talk about that nervous, stressful environment.
Yes.
How do we prepare a child to eat in one of these new environments where the dynamics are completely different than what they're used to?
It's really challenging because many schools, kids are all of a sudden eating together, sometimes hundreds of kids. It's very loud, it's very noisy. One thing you can do is let them know that that's the way it's going to be. Practice opening the containers. You know, most schools, want you to have a lunch and 2 snacks. Make sure they can open all their containers and let them know that it is going to be a very different environment. They want to try and focus as much as they can, but it really just takes the practice of being at school to do it.
A lot of parents feel overwhelmed when they get that list from the school about all the restrictions of the foods they can't send with their child. Yeah. They don't want to be responsible for making another child sick, for example.
Of course.
So a lot of them will default to prepackaged foods.
I know, and it's a bit of a pitfall. I know that we can certainly offer our children, they're going to have snacks that are processed. We want to get healthy versions if we can, but I would say whole foods is still the answer. Picking whole foods, vegetables, fruits, grains, protein sources, dairy, if you do dairy, in packing them for your child is really the best option. You know, processed foods still have a lot more salt and sugar than we want kids to have.
Okay, well, here's another one. Because the kids come home from school. What time should we feed them their next meal? Do they have a snack when they come home? My kids are always begging for a snack when they come home. And then fear is they're not going to be hungry for dinner a few hours later.
I know. Kids are really snack monsters, so it is really important to give them food when they are asking for food. I would say most kids do really well with an after-school snack. In terms of what time to feed dinner, I mean, that really depends. Every family is so different, schedules, activities. 6 p.m. tends to be around when most families would get dinner on the table. A little later is fine as well, usually between 1 and 2 hours before a child's bedtime, so there's room for that extra bedtime snack if needed.
But there's nothing worse. You give them a snack, then they say they don't want to eat dinner, and then an hour after that, they say, can I have another snack because I'm hungry?
I know. They are really snack monsters. I would say keep the snack small, the after-school snack. That's a great time to offer vegetables and fruit because they are at their peak hunger. Space out the dinner, maybe an hour and a half later, and don't have expectations around dinner. It's okay if they want to have a small portion. Don't pressure it. Don't goad. Just go ahead and role model.
They're going to get the nutrition they need. They're going to get the energy they need somehow.
They will.
Okay, what happens at school when you have the best of intentions and you send your child with this incredible new box and it's got all this fresh food in there and whole foods and all these grains, and then they're sitting next to a guy who's got a chocolate bar and like something else, like the stuff that looks good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, kids are going to, as they get older, they're going to want to trade lunches. They're going to want to trade snacks. They're like, oh, what do you have? Maybe I should have some of what you have. It's totally okay. It's totally normal. If your child has allergies, you're going to want to make sure you coach them that they cannot share food with anyone at school. But if not, you know, maybe you can ask your kids, what was it that was so interesting in your friend's lunch? And maybe
it was bright orange, and it was called a Cheeto.
Yes. See if you can sneak some of those things into your own child's lunch. You know, it'll become a process of what do they want, what do they need, and what's out there, because you as parents learn as well from other children's lunches.
It's horse trading.
Yes.
You know, you got to give them the apple and everything. Okay, I gotcha.
Yes.
Nisha, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure.
We got a lot to look forward to this year. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.